Ave Dohe relatives. Happy Thursday. I was doing the Winter Wellness series on Wednesdays, and then the holidays happened. For some reason, I got a lot of new clients and just had to adjust to some things. And had a little bit of my own experience on the topic, heartbreak and betrayal, and dealing with the pain as an Indigenous person, recovering from boarding school trauma, even as a third generation survivor, and living with a second and third generation survivor, and how that manifests, and just everything going on in the world. And so, resuming tonight on Thursday. So, figure we'll wait for a couple people to join in. Hi, Natalie. How are you guys doing up there? I hope you guys are staying warm. So, I don't want to, I'm not, the type of person I'm very transparent. I wrote a book about my own recovery and about my own trauma and about how messy my life was, and how I had the opportunity to turn it around, and how I am passionate about sharing the tools that I found the most valuable to manage my trauma and my depression and my shame and my rage and my suicidality and traumatic brain injuries. There were so many different things that I had to recover from that I know for a fact now are connected to my ancestral trauma and how those things are passed down. So I wanted to touch on that tonight. And I had a bit of my own betrayal, and pain recently over the holidays. And it's no secret the narcissistic behavior manifests out of early childhood abuse, and that's very prevalent in our family systems, in our communities. And I don't necessarily think it's the colonized Western diagnosis of a personality disorder, because that doesn't take into consideration our ancestral trauma and what I like to call the mother wound that developed from boarding school trauma, how children were ripped from our ancestors. Our ancestors were ripped from their mothers, and that created a disparity. I think that's the word, like a desperation and a brokenness among communities and families. And then as that got passed on generation after generation, mothers forgot how to value themselves. And that was my own experience in my family. And like many Indigenous people, I come from a complicated background of interracial family, racism within the family, and the abuse, the sexual abuse, the alcoholism, trying to escape pain, becoming hyper focused on the pain, becoming obsessed with the pain, developing a victim mentality myself, feeling like I was cursed basically, and that nothing was ever going to change in my life, and that everything was going to just all be bad. So I'm 13 years into my recovery, into my sobriety, into having had a career as a mental health clinician and now a wellness practitioner. And those things don't go away in life. The trauma, they manifest differently. As we peel back the layers, we find how our trauma, develops in another way, another behavior that you don't expect from somebody that's hurtful, and trauma comes out in reactions and distorted responses and perceptions of the world and not necessarily as memories. So this is why this practice of decolonized yoga, I call it decolonized yoga. I was traditionally trained in Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan. There's a lot of controversy around that. What I've learned is that true Kundalini Yoga it can't be taught in a book. There's not a series of Kriyas. Kriya Yoga and Kundalini Yoga are different. I teach a series of movements that are connected to Kundalini Yoga, and basically the practice of Kundalini Yoga is using these movements as your body tells you to use them. That's true Kundalini Yoga. So I'm your guide to teach you some movements, some techniques, the proper techniques to stimulate the Kundalini in your body and to demystify and break it down. The Kundalini is your cerebral spinal fluid. It's the fluid that rests at the base of your spine. Mothers that have had spinal taps, or anybody that's had a spinal tap or a epidural knows very well about this fluid. So that's Kundalini energy. That's what we're working with, and the goal of Kundalini Yoga and the techniques of that yoga, and using the bandhas, the internal locks and seals in the body to move that energy, moves blockages. And these blockages can come from trauma or injury, physical trauma, emotional trauma, mental trauma, any type of trauma. And the theory is if we can unclog these blocks, we can cure chronic illnesses, chronic depression, chronic anxiety, pretty much any condition that we develop in our life or that we inherit. The belief in the yogic scriptures is that we can rewrite our DNA. We can turn on and off codons in scientific terms, and we can stimulate our RNA, which has the internal codes to help our bodies heal itself, essentially, with the right conditions. Our bodies aren't going to heal themselves if we're drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, eating a bad diet. Traditional foods are the best way to go, because that's what speaks to our genetics. Getting away from a factory farmed meat, all of those things that are becoming more prevalent to us now. Learning how our even our gut health is connected to our depression and all those things. So with that said, I feel like I've talked enough and that we should just get into doing some practices. And while you guys are doing some practices, I may start talking again and you guys keep doing the practices. That's how we traditionally do it in a Kundalini Yoga class. For some reason my laptop isn't wanting to cooperate with me. Alright, here we go. So I can't play unlicensed music, and I really don't like to play music anyways for yoga classes. I like the sound of rain. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. Okay, so let's set our nervous systems and our minds to receive the oxygen and the stretching that we're going to be doing, the practices, the seals. So we're going to bring our palms in front of our heart, and we're going to begin to rub the palms together and close the eyes down. And if anybody is doing yoga from a chair or needs any modifications, just say so in the comment box so it pops up, and I can alter the practice for whatever the modifications you need. I want this to be as inclusive as possible. It's said that everybody can do this type of yoga, because really this yoga is about the breath and visualizing things, using your inner eye. So that's what we're going to be practicing tonight, but we're going to first warm up the lower body with some stretching and some practices. So inhale deeply through the nose. Bring the thumbs to the chest. Put about 5 pounds of pressure, pressing in and pressing back onto the sternum, really engaging the heart center. And exhale and inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And as you suspend this breath, give gratitude for this precious breath of life, and this life that we're given every day to start anew. And exhale. Last time inhaling. Inhale deeply. Inhale a little bit more. Really stretch your lungs. And exhale. And relax. So before we begin, I wanted to go over the mole bond or the root lock with you. The root lock we're going to do at the end of several exercises. If you have high blood pressure, don't do the root lock. If you're on your moon, don't do the root lock. If you're past 3 months pregnant, don't do the root lock. I believe that's all the conditions. If you find it makes you too dizzy, don't do it. And definitely don't stand up too fast after doing the root lock practice, because you can become dizzy and fall over, because we're increasing our oxygen intake by 300% is what studies show when you're doing Kundalini Yoga exercises and pranayams. So we're going to begin with opening up the hips. I like to sit on a little pillow to take the pressure off of my hips. You can use a regular pillow, fold it up, sit on it, whatever helps you feel comfortable, because that's the goal. We don't want yoga to be uncomfortable, because then you're less likely to do it. So if anything's uncomfortable and you need a modification, again, just say so in the comment box. So let's just go ahead and open our legs. You can't really see, but I'm opening my feet as wide as possible. This is stretching the inner thighs. You want to sit up nice and tall. We're going to undo my buttons, my snaps here. We're going to inhale to the center. And we're going to exhale and come down to the left foot, pulling the left toe back towards the body. And if you're only able to touch your shin or your ankle or your toe, whatever's comfortable for you, that's where you're going to reach. And then inhale back up. And exhale over the right side. Really feel that stretch again. Do not hyperextend yourself. You want your knee to be straight. You don't want your knee bent up like this, stretching like as far as you can to touch your toe. You want your knee straight, and you're going to lead with the chest. So the head is up, looking towards the ceiling, leading with the chest, and stretch as far as you can. And again, we're going to inhale to the center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to the center. And down to the right. Continuing, inhaling to the center and then exhaling down, alternating the sides, really feeling that life nerve stretch behind the leg. Making your breath nice and deep. And each time you exhale, you should feel a little bit more stretch, a little bit more range of motion, hopefully. And if you don't push it. And just accept where you're at. Thank your body. Thank yourself for showing up to do something kind for your body. Exhaling down over the right. Inhaling. And exhaling over the left. Being sure to lead with the chest, keeping the head up. You don't want to drop the head and have your neck slouched over. Then the fluid doesn't flow through the cerebral spinal, it's called the Shushmana, the central spinal column channel. And inhale. Really stretch up, stretch as far as you can, as with the best posture you can, like you're reaching for the stars. And exhale over the left foot. Last time, inhale. And exhale over the right. And bring the legs back to the center. Sit for a moment and just tune in to your lower body. Tune in to your emotional state. Without attachment to stories from today or anything going on, just do your best to stay in the present moment, bringing your awareness back to your body, back to your breath, making an effort to bring your full awareness to your breath. We don't give much thought to the breath, even though it's the first thing we do when we're born, the last thing we do when we leave, yet we don't really have awareness on it. But if we do, it can change a lot of things. Your breath is a powerful teacher, incredibly powerful teacher. So now I'm going to take my pillow out for now, and we're going to stretch I think this is called the back hamstrings. So you're going to grab your shin, and you're going to hold your shin like a baby. And you're just going to kind of rock. Maybe don't hold babies like this, but kind of like a baby. Maybe a sack of potatoes. So you're holding a sack of potatoes, and you're rocking your leg. Feeling that stretch back here? And if you're not feeling the stretch, maybe take it a little bit further, the range of motion, slow down. Remember to breathe. And release that leg. We're going to switch sides. We're going to pick up the left leg, or if you did the opposite, that's fine too. As long as you do both sides, that's what matters most. So we're going to hold the other leg, whichever other leg you're doing. For me, it's my left. We're going to rock this leg. And again, don't forget to breathe. Breathe as you rock. If you need a little bit more of a stretch in this hamstring, I think it's a hamstring. And release this leg. And if you are sitting on a pillow, feel free to reposition yourself. As I said, I sit on a little pillow to take the pressure off my hips when I'm sitting. Props are always helpful if you need them. So now we're going to bring our focus to the spine, the hips and the spine. The hips, in yogic philosophy, the hips and the shoulders are the main gates of fear for the body. It's where we store our fear, or where fear comes into our body, I guess you could say. And it's very much related to our kidneys. But if we have a lot of fear about the future, or fear about, whatever it may be, we may have shoulder or hip issues. So there's a lot of focus on shoulders and hips and keeping those open. So we're going to do the Sufi practice, the Sufi circles going around. Hands are on the knees. We're starting off in a clockwise direction. Inhaling and exhaling. Imagining that your base, your hips, Your legs are like a bowl, and your torso is a spoon, and you're just stirring, going around. Remembering to breathe, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. When we breathe deeply through the nose and exhale, inhale and exhale through the nose, that stimulates both hemispheres of the brain. Very good for depression, head injuries, basically anything. Oxygen, it's the first thing that we receive if we're unfortunate enough to have to go to the hospital or an ambulance. That's one of the first things they give us is oxygen. So increasing your oxygen intake on a regular basis contributes to general health and wellness. And we're also training our nervous systems to switch from the I forget the names, an autonomic nervous system to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So we're teaching our nervous system to relax, to go into a state of relaxation with these techniques. And remembering to breathe, and with the eyes closed, that contributes to our body's ability to have more energy to heal itself. And inhale to the center. And exhale. And again, sitting still, tuning in. Remembering to drink water, because water is life. It's our first medicine, always drinking it with good intentions. When you drink your water, first thing in the morning, of course, say that prayer for yourself and for anyone you know that needs that healing, and drink that water. And through the day, I like to remember that this is medicine. So now we always want to stay balanced. Rarely do we ever do a practice on one side in yoga, unless we're detoxing the liver. For detoxing the liver, sometimes we'll just do a practice on the right side to basically squeeze the liver. So we're going to do the Sufi circles in counterclockwise direction now, going this way. I like to switch my legs around, and if you're doing yoga in a chair, you can always just sit with your feet on the floor and knees open and do the same motion. You don't have to be down on the floor if you can't get down on the floor. They say this is one of the only yogas that even a paraplegic could do, because it's about intention and breathing. So now we're going to go counterclockwise. If you switched your legs around, great. And begin. Inhale. Rotating counterclockwise, opening the hips, imagining your base to be like a bowl, and your torso is a spoon, and you're just stirring. We're opening up the sacrum. I love you too, Maud. That's my family from Florida. I'm going to come visit you guys someday. Keep breathing, rotating. You're like a spoon, just stirring the pot. And you know what? Sometimes you gotta stir the pot. Sorry. I know I'm known for that. And maybe not very liked, but you gotta stir the pot. Sometimes things just gotta be shook up just a little bit. Especially when things aren't right. So right now we're just stirring our internal pots. Opening the sacrum, allowing our base to connect with that energy from the earth. Last couple rotations. And inhale to the center. Nice deep breath. Inhale a little bit more. Stretch the lungs. And squeeze root lock. I didn't explain that earlier. That's your lower organs of elimination and your lower abdomen. And we're squeezing, and exhale, release. So what we did right there is we're using an internal seal in our body to push that energy up our spine. And we're just going to keep working up our spine until we get to our heart, our throat, and our Ajna chakra tonight. I could probably do a whole video on chakras, and basically they're supposed to go clockwise. Sometimes they end up going counterclockwise. Sometimes they end up constricting, almost like a vessel in the heart that causes a heart attack. If they're not flowing energy right, we could get depressed. Like all these different symptoms go along with the health of our chakras, and we want our chakras to be spinning counterclockwise in a healthy flow. Everything's about energy flow. So we just started off with the sacrum. Now we're going to let's move up. I'm a little indecisive right now. Let's start right here. We'll start with right about here, our thoracic. So our hands are on our knees. Our elbows are going to be as straight as possible. And we're going to inhale, lift the chest, exhale, round the back like a cat. Continuing to breathe. Really lifting the chest. The flexibility of the spine maintains the youth of the body, mind, spirit, and emotions. Our spine is so important because it's like our computer system, right? Our nervous system. So what we're doing, you guys keep breathing. I'm not breathing with you guys, but you guys keep breathing, inhaling forward, exhaling back. So we are tuning up our computer right now, our nervous system. What this exercise does is it affects the waves in the brain. It can make your brain waves go from alpha to beta to theta brain waves to help you actually create calmness. Last few seconds. And inhale deeply. Inhale a little bit more. And exhale out through the mouth. Blow all that energy out. We're blowing out all that blocked energy. And now hold the breath out. Exhale completely out. Lock that breath out. Now squeeze root lock again. Squeezing your organs of elimination and your lower abdomen. Eyes are closed. Focused at your brow point. Tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. Hold for as long as comfortably possible. And inhale when you need to. Again, don't do the mole bond if you have any health conditions that could complicate, like pregnancy, high blood pressure, if you're past 3 months pregnant, high blood pressure, or if you're on your moon. You don't want to put extra pressure in the womb, and that's essentially what that exercise does. We contract our uterus or our uterine muscles, and the organs of elimination, everything we use, go bathroom, and then our lower abdomen, and we squeeze all those muscles to push that spinal fluid up. So now we're about right here in our spine. So we're going to do the spinal twist. We're going to open up our heart with our thumbs in the back and our fingers in the front. Lift the chest, lifting the heart. We're going to twist to the left and inhale deeply. Eyes are closed. Twist to the right and exhale and continue. Inhaling left, exhaling right. And inhale to the center. Suspend the breath. Open the chest. Lift the heart. And exhale. Relax. Turn your attention inside. Create a relationship of awareness with your own body, mind, and emotions. When we take time to do these practices, we learn to become the observer. We learn to lead with our spirit rather than our ego, rather than our emotions, rather than the physical pain that we may feel. When we do these practices, we allow our body to engage in its own ability for self-healing with the right conditions, with that caveat, that little asterisk. You can't be drinking and destroying your body in all these other ways, smoking cigarettes. This practice helped me stop smoking cigarettes. I smoked for years. I was suicidal for 13 years. Pretty much everything was wrong with me that could possibly be wrong with a human being. And I was able to somehow heal from traumatic brain injuries, amnesia. I'm currently healing right now from a very rare autoimmune blood disease, and I'm so happy last night I was able to eat foods that would have made me anaphylactic a year ago. So I'm healing, and I'm so happy because doctors say this is not a condition that can be healed. So I learned to stop listening to doctors years ago, and I've had incredible teachers to teach me how I can support my body in engaging in healing. So the next practice we're going to do, since we've worked our way up to the heart, now we are going to get into some meditations and really getting into that root of the heart center. That's Luna in the background filing grievances about something. So the heart, so much has happened. Just recently we lost an elder who was really, really special to us. One of those wisdom keepers who was keeping really old traditional ways alive in his culture. He was Dene. I don't want to say his name at night because we have spiritual beliefs not to speak the name of people who have passed away at night. But he was a very special person, and it was like a library left with him. Tata, can you let her out or blow on her food or whatever she's complaining about?
I'm brushing her.
Oh, you're brushing her. Oh, okay. Sorry. Grief. We're losing a lot of people right now. It's devastating. The pandemic, and just as Native people, we have so much grief anyways. Typically we see more funerals than we do high school graduations and weddings, and that historical trauma is alive in a lot of communities. I know that for a fact to be true, that so many of us are confronting whatever our histories are. So this matters of the heart are so prevalent right now, especially this year. The numerology this year, 2022, tantric numerology, if we just look at the numbers quickly and add them up, we have a 2 and a 4. So we have heart energy and womb healing energy. So that's the big energy this year. That's the theme of this year, energetically. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. It's a very feminine year. So one of my favorite practices, we're going to do this for 3 minutes. It's a practice to adjust the heart meridian. You can do this practice every day. if you do it every day, alternate sides. Again, it's important to maintain that balance. The reason why we're here is to remember that sacred balance, in my belief, and who am I? But that's been at least my path, is to recenter myself, keep getting back to center, no matter how crazy things get. Like I started to spiral out. To be totally honest, I started to spiral out emotionally this week because of my own betrayal, my own heartache, and I sat and watched my mental process spin and spiral out. I was like, whoa, okay, hold on, what are my values? And I had a really amazing teacher that said, let your values be your compass. And I had to really sit and think, what are my values? To be the person that I didn't have, that I always needed for other people and for myself now. I had to do a lot of reparenting. A lot of us, I feel like, have to do a lot of reparenting to address that mother wound, that individual mother wound and the global mother wound that we're being called to address, that imbalance of the masculine and feminine, and the abuse of the earth and the abuse of women, and the control of women's bodies, and the exploitation of the earth and women's bodies, and how those things parallel and how they've always paralleled. And the more we find that balance and that healing within ourselves, the more things will change on the outside, because that is essentially feminine energy. That is the way of the woman. We live half in the spirit world and half in the physical world. So we have this amazing ability to shift things around us as we shift things within us. So with that said, this practice adjusts the heart meridian. It's a practice for grief. I've leaned deeply into this practice when I lost my mother, when I lost my grandmother, when I lost animals that I've loved, when I've lost elders. I do this practice regularly. I love to do this practice by the river, or the ocean, or even if I can't be outside or it's not raining, I play water music, on YouTube or whatever. So we're going to make Spock hands. And this time we're going to do the right side. You alternate. If you do this every day, you're going to alternate. So this palm is facing out, your left hand. The palm is facing out, your right hand. The palm is facing down, still in the Spock mudra, Spock mudra, which is, again, working with the energies, adjusting the meridians, because our heart meridian runs down our ring finger. So the chest is open. We're going to close the eyes, or have the eyes open 9/10 of the way, just slightly open. Tip of the tongue is at the roof of the mouth, and we're going to begin breathing long and deep. And we are practicing breath control, extending the inhale for as long as possible, exhaling as slowly as possible, keeping the posture as straight as possible. The eyes are closed down, maintaining the posture of the hands, which are Spock hands. We're about halfway through the practice. Doing the best you can to hold the posture. If you have shoulder injuries and you have to take a break, or you have to adjust the posture, the important thing is the mudra, keeping your hands in the Spock position If you're able to maintain the stretch, great. If you're not, do the best you can and visualize yourself doing the practice perfectly. That's the thing about yoga. The only person you're in competition with is yourself. We have 1 more minute to go with the practice. Really feeling it. It's challenging me, so just do the best you can. 3 minutes is 3 minutes is what's instructed for this practice. 3 minutes a day. This practice comes from the Create Inner Peace curriculum. Last 15 seconds, really challenge yourself to hold the posture. 10 seconds. And inhale deeply. Suspend the breath. Blow the breath out your mouth forcefully. And come out of the posture. Shake the shoulders. Did a great job. And just sit for a moment. Bring your awareness to your heart. Maybe even put your hands over your heart. Take a moment to thank your heart. Not just for the physical work it does, but the emotional work it does. Our hearts carry so much. So much grief, and sometimes, or maybe even now, resentment, heartache, unconditional love, joy. There's so much our hearts hold. The mystic yogis in the East say that the longest journey you'll ever take, even if you travel around the world as many times as you can in one lifetime, the longest journey you're ever going to take is that 18 inches between your heart and your head, connecting that heart to head intelligence. So just taking a moment to thank your heart for all that it does. Acknowledging it. And now we're going to work on our throat, our 5th chakra. So the beautiful thing about yoga, so one of my degrees, and I happened to be the first woman in my family to get a college education, and it took me 14 years to get a 4-year degree. Most people probably wouldn't brag about that, but I do, because I didn't give up, and I faced near impossible challenges over and over and over again, and I just didn't give up. And I even had to fight for my degree notation, and was banned from walking with my graduating class because of my controversial paper that I wrote from an Indigenous perspective for my final paper. So I fought all the way through. Maybe I don't have to fight as much as I do, but I like to think some of it's honorable. So our throat is connected with the lightning, what is the energy called? Etheric energy. Our heart is connected with the element of air. Our stomachs is connected with the element of the sacred fire, what purifies, and it has to do with our digestion and our willpower and our ability to show up confidently in the world with that fire behind our energy. And then our reproductive system, our second chakra, is coordinated with water. And then our first chakra is connected to earth. So in Sanskrit, in East India, they're called tattvas. And it's our elemental connections. And when we do the yoga, when we focus on these different areas in our body, we're focusing on our relationship to that energy. So, our throats. This is a very subtle practice. I was taught in yoga, the more subtle the intervention, the greater the impact. So we're going to be opening our ability to speak truth, adjusting our sight to seeing truth, and honing in our ability to relate to truth with these practices. So how we're going to do, we're sitting, and if you're in a chair, you can do this practice from a chair. You can do this practice laying down, really. So our hands are in Gyan Mudra. Our pointer fingers, which relate to the planet Jupiter, are going to connect to our thumbs, which relate to our egos. So we're surrendering our ego to the wisdom and expansion of planet Jupiter and our spirit. And in this practice, we're going to turn the head to the left. Really feel that neck stretch in the back. So turn the head as far as your range of motion will allow you to. Eyes are closed. Inhale deeply. Slowly turn the head to the right. As far as your range of motion will allow you to go. And exhale through your nostrils. And again, turn to the right. And slowly turn your head to the left. To the right. Inhaling deeply, and again slowly turning your head to the left, beginning to exhale after you pass the center, completing the exhale at your range of motion stopping point, beginning to exhale. Inhaling to the left and exhaling to the right. Getting your own rhythm. Continuing to inhale to the left and exhale to the right. We're in our last minute. Each of these practices we're doing for 3 minutes. It only takes 3 minutes to shift your electromagnetic energy. And inhale to the center. Suspend the breath, focus at the brow point, press the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, and squeeze root lock. Imagine that energy coming up your spine to your Ajna chakra. And exhale. Relax. Again, take a moment to bring your awareness to your body, your mental state, and your emotional state. So, I wanted to touch on the aspect of pain as a distraction versus pain as a disciplined focus. So, the colonized mind, the Western mind, is very up in here. We worry, we think, we have all these scenarios we play out in our head, we think what ifs, we have doubts, we hold ill will about a situation or a person, or there's so much energy that goes into mental. And when we get caught up in those traps, those mental traps, it's a distraction. We forget why we're here. We forget what's important to us. We forget our purpose. We get off balance. Or at least I do. Maybe you don't. But that's my experience. And I constantly have to bring myself back to center. Back to focus. Back to what's important. What's my purpose? What are my goals? Why am I here? I feel like I was one of the most distracted, unfocused people that ever existed at one point in my life. And it's been a journey of learning martial arts and yoga and philosophies from the East, basically. And sitting in ceremony. I would have never been able to sit in ceremonies had I not started learning to care about my spirit, even. In fact, I went to my first ceremony just a few days before I went to my first yoga class. I prayed in an anipi for a way to heal, and then I stumbled into a yoga class, literally lost, crying because I had amnesia and a brain injury, and I was overwhelmed. And, actually, by that time, I had 3 traumatic brain injuries in that year, so I was really overwhelmed, and I was desperate for help, and I did what my grandmother told me to, and I started listening to the beliefs and teachings that she raised me with when I was desperate enough and had nowhere else to turn, and I was broken, and I realized I couldn't, do things the way I wasn't as smart as I thought I was, essentially. So ceremony led me to yoga, and yoga has allowed me to walk a ceremonial path with integrity. For me, because I don't always have access to ceremony. So yoga has given me this place every day to be in ceremony with myself, if that makes sense. Because yoga itself, it's not a religion, but it's a practice to yoke yourself to who you believe in, what you believe in, your values. And it's a place to sit and allow that grief to come out. And my yoga practice hasn't always been pretty. There's been days where I've keened and screamed and cried so loud I'm surprised my neighbors acres away didn't call the police. It's given me a place where I can safely process generations of heartache and pain. And when that heartache comes back around, which it always does, and oftentimes that heartache comes from the people that we love the most, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It's a part of life. And learning to sit with that and lean into that and allow that pain to be a concentrated focus has been the most powerful thing I've ever learned to do for myself. And I've spent a lot of my life distracted. The last 13 years I've been pretty focused. And what that discipline and focus has allowed me to do is to bring a 20-year goal, or a dream I had, like a literal dream I had 20 years ago of writing a book, into the physical world. That 13 years of focus, the other 17 years were spent completely fucking off and nearly dying. Multiple near-death experiences. So I'm always grateful that I got that chance to come back to life and to learn how to be focused and to learn how to lean into the pain and to welcome the pain because it's a part of life. And so much of our colonized mind has taught us to take painkillers, to ignore the emotional pain, to just however we can distract ourselves from the pain. I used to be a shopaholic. I used to, watch movies all day long just so I didn't have to think about things or see things. Now I haven't had a TV in my house for 20 years. And I prefer creating things. I prefer engaging with people. I prefer doing something to ease the suffering in this world a little bit more. And I put a vision board back here because that's something I do to stay focused, because so much comes up in life and we forget what we're doing here. And having a vision board, even if it ends up in the corner of my room, I can still pull it out and be like, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. Oh yeah, let's get back to this plan and bring it back to that focus, and then use a yogic practice to develop a discipline to handle the pain, to develop a disciplined practice of focusing on that pain so that I can move forward, so I don't have to live in this frozen state that my trauma has a tendency to put me in. So ceremony, yoga, and then I have to mention martial arts. Martial arts has saved my life. My uncle, my Uncle Mark, he spent 10 years in Thailand after the Vietnam War. He served as a medic in the army, and he brought back 10 years of Kung Fu. And when I was, 6 or 7, he began teaching me the 113 stances of the White Crane, a form of Kung Fu. And now I'm back to being a student of Wing Chun, and Wing Chun is a form that was inspired by the fight between the crane and the snake. So I'm so grateful and humbled to have so many sources that have been in my life that have made healing possible, and the teachers that have come into my life that have shared these things with me in a good way so that I can share them with others in a good way. And that's why I'm passionate about teaching decolonized yoga. Somebody reached out to me and was like, are you still doing the yoga? It's really helping. And that made me feel so good, because sometimes I'm like, am I really making a difference? But a lot of what has helped me aren't from my culture. What has helped me connect back to my culture is what the Lakota Oyate share. They invite others into their ceremony in that way, and make us relatives, and that allows us, or that's allowed me to develop a rich connection to my ancestors, because we were connected through the Sundance ways for thousands of years together as peoples. And I'm blessed to have an older Osage sister to teach me these stories. So, with that, I want to share some martial arts philosophies. Real quick, before our last meditation, we're going to end. I'm making this a full, basically, like a yoga class I would teach at a yoga studio. It's an hour and 15 minutes. So I heard something that I really loved, and it's really a big part of my practice, but this Shaolin master, he put it so eloquently. His name is Shi Hing Yi. He is a Shaolin master, and I heard this TED talk, and he talks about the 5 hindrances in the Shaolin philosophy. And that first hindrance is sensual desire. And we think of sensual as sexuality, but it's not just that. Like, it might be food, or it could be, we're on our way to work and we smell that coffee at that coffee shop, and we have to go stop and get that coffee and be late for work. That's giving into sensual desire. Doing something out of character because one of our senses is triggered. That's a great way to explain why people cheat in the moment. Senses are triggered, so sensual desire can be connected to sexuality, but it can also be any one of our senses. And doing something that's out of our character, out of our value system, because those senses are like, ooh, that's nice. The second hindrance is ill will. Holding on to ill will to someone. Somebody does you dirty. Somebody spreads rumors about you. Somebody weaponizes kinship terms against you. I've had a lot. Last year's taught me a whole lot about people, and people aren't always who you think they are. So I had to learn again and again. I've been challenged to not hold ill will to people. Our electricity is iffy out here. Anyways, so not holding that resentment. And so many people think forgiveness is like being cool with that person again. No, forgiveness is like not being angry, not like plotting resentment. Oh, I'm gonna get that person back. Oh, I can't wait for this because da 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 da. No, it's like just letting them go, letting them do what they gotta do. We're all on this journey to basically find that sacred balance again. And you can't control people. You can't save people from their consequences. I mean, you can save people from their consequences, but that's not great either. So don't hold on to ill will. Let shit go, Protect yourself. Learn, move forward, let it go. The third hindrance, and these are the hindrances, I should say, to self-mastery. And self-mastery is, I know it's a very Eastern concept, and maybe my Hoka mom would describe it as living our indigenous values to the best of our ability. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to become this ultimate human being. Everybody's going to mess up, but doing the best we can. So our hindrance is to doing the best we can and being who Creator made us to be, I guess, is the best way I could put it, from Eastern to Western philosophy or concept, is laziness. Being lazy. The third hindrance is just being lazy. Getting yourself trapped in your depression. They call it an imprisonment. Putting in no effort to nothing. Just being like, blah. And I've fought depression a lot of my life. And I've had to create mental practices, mindfulness practices, so when that depression comes back around, I'm able to just move on. I feel it. I sit with it for a day or two. I eat some ice cream, or I don't know. I can't really eat ice cream these days. But, I allow myself to feel why I'm depressed. I don't just toxic positivity it. Like, oh, positive vibes only. No, I let myself get depressed. And then I move forward. I feel the depression. I lean into that pain. So the fourth hindrance is restlessness, having a monkey mind, having an unsettled mind. They call it a monkey mind in the East because it's a mind that won't settle down when you don't want it to, and it throws shit everywhere. So this monkey mind can either be like spending way too much time in the past, ruminating about past events. I should have done this. I should have said this. I can't believe so-and-so did this. And, all those things that we, get attached to in the past. Or we get stuck in the future worrying about playing out scenarios that haven't even happened yet and putting in all this energy, all this mental energy into something that hasn't even happened. So the way we settle that monkey mind, well, I'll get into that in a minute. The fifth hindrance is skeptical doubt, indecisiveness, having a case of the what ifs. What if this? What if that? If you're clear on your values as a person, we have our indigenous values. If you follow a certain spiritual path, there's values with that, and they're all pretty similar. When we compare spiritual paths and religions, but the integrity, it's all about integrity, how we actually live those. So if we're clear on those values, we shouldn't be skeptical, because it should be those values that direct us and not the what ifs of false scenarios. We should be able to decide in the moment what's right based on our values. Our values are our compass. If we're way off track, we use our values to get back onto our path, onto our purpose, what Creator put us here to be, to do. So there's 4 techniques you use to address the 5 hindrances to mastering oneself or living the potential of who you are. So the first step is to recognize your state of mind, to be mindful. Oh, I'm feeling mad right now. And it's okay to be angry, especially as women, we're told, not to be angry, but anger is a signal that somebody has crossed a boundary, that somebody has disrespected us, that somebody has hurt us, has, wronged us in some way, that we need to protect ourselves, that we need to shift the situation accordingly. So recognizing that state of mind. I'm grieving. I'm sad. I don't feel good. And then responding accordingly. But first we have to be mindful about where we're at. The next one is to accept, acknowledge, and allow other people their process. Not everybody's on the same journey. We're all on a different journey. Not everybody comes into this plane of existence with the same volume of knowledge. I believe in past lives. And I believe that we come here for a purpose and that we return to source. And that source for us is in the stars. And we all have our different beliefs about where we go, why we're here, what the spirit is, if there's a spirit. And even if there's not a spirit, you don't have to believe in a spirit or an afterlife or any of that to be a good person. You can just have ethics and values. So being honest, the second one is just accepting and allowing other people their own personal journey and not judging them, and not being attached to, if they're not hurting you, and if they are hurting you, then you need to protect yourself however you need to protect yourself. And that includes that you're being spiritually abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, not just physically abused. But not trying to change a person, basically. So the third strategy in Shaolin philosophy to change one of any or all of the 5 hindrances is to investigate your emotional state. Why do I feel this way? Why am I angry? Why do I feel betrayed? Why is my heart hurting? Why do I feel joy? Life isn't always just pain and heartache. Why do I feel happy right now? Why do I feel this joy right now? Why do I feel grateful right now? Investigate your emotional states. Pick it up like it's a rock and look at all the facets of it. And the fourth strategy to changing the hindrances to self-mastery in Shaolin philosophy: non-identification. Realizing the ultimate truth that we're not our body, we're not our mind, and we're not our emotions. Those things are all aspects of who we really are. One could say we're the spirit. I've heard it say we're the light of the spirit, we're the soul. There's different ways of wording it, but we're not just the body, we're not just the mind, we're not just the way we think, and we're not just the emotions that arise in us, which is connected to our thinking. Those things are all tools which we can use and we should be observers of. So ultimately, we're this spirit, or we're this, if you don't believe in the spirit, then we're consciousness. We're not just the brain, we're not just the emotion, and we're not just the body. So learning to be that ultimate observer of everything. And that's where I've been the last week. I've taken on several new clients. I had I don't know if I'd call it an existential crisis, because it wasn't about me, but it was about how I'm choosing to relate to the world in my most personal relationships, and how I'm choosing to handle heartbreak and betrayal, and maintain a neutrality in a way that allows me to navigate it with my values and not my thinking, and not what I felt in my heart, which was so intense, and not the pain I felt in my body from the heartache, and learning to just be like, okay, I need to watch all of this and decide from that place of my consciousness and my spirit how to move forward from this heartache. So now that I've touched on those martial arts philosophies from that Shaolin master, we'll do our last meditation this evening. It's to unclog the agna. Of course, I'm so grateful that I get to share it with you guys, Sarita, and thank you for messaging me, and really, that meant a lot to me today. If I say any more, I'll probably start tearing up and getting a little bit emotional, but I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you. So this meditation is to help you see the unseen, to help you command your life. Creator put you here, but Creator gave you free will. And as women especially, we have this amazing ability to project from our third eye. It's not only for seeing, we can see things in our mind's eye, but it's also for projecting. And our Ajna chakra is also our command system for our hormones and our neurotransmitters, everything that makes us feel, basically. So we're not just adjusting our endocrine system, we're opening our third eye. We're going to remove that block. If there's any blocks there, we're going to open it wide open. And if there's ever anything you need to process after any of these classes, I'm available. Inbox me. That's the one thing they say. Kundalini Yoga it shouldn't really be practiced without access to a teacher that can help guide you and help you kind of navigate the things that start happening, because it's a very powerful practice. So, hands are in Gyan Mudra. The posture must be perfect. If you're sitting in a chair, make it like a hard back chair. So it's like a straight seat, so you're not like slouched down in a couch. If you're on the floor, great. If you want to sit on a pillow, great. So hands in Gyan Mudra. The index pointer fingers touch the thumb again, wisdom and expansion, surrendering the ego to the spirit. And we're going to close the eyes down 9/10 of the way. So this is like, it's called a drunken Buddha. Your eyes are just barely open, like you're about to pass out. And we're going to inhale sharply through our mouth, through a puckered mouth, 2 times. And then exhale through the nose, 1 steady breath. And we're going to continue that for 3 minutes. Eyes 9/10 of the way closed. Making the breath very powerful. 1 minute left. Sipping the air through the mouth, exhaling through the nose. Sipping the air twice through the mouth, exhaling through the nose. And inhale. Bring the palms to the center of the chest. Push with the center of the palms. Really push, like 5 pounds of pressure, just like we started out with. Inhale a little more. Exhale through the mouth. Rapid cannon fire breath. Inhale again. Squeeze the root lock. Push the palms. Focus at the brow point. Press the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. We're doing all this to clear the Ajna chakra. Rapid fire out the mouth. Blow out all that stuff blocking your inner eye. Inhale deeply. Last time. Inhale a little bit more. Really stretch your lungs. Press the palms. 5 pounds of pressure. Squeeze root lock. Engaging the organs of elimination and your lower abdominals. Focus at the brow point. Press the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Inhale a little more. And blow that breath out through the mouth. And relax. Just sit for a moment. Bring your awareness inside yourself. Eyes are closed. Hands can be folded in your lap. You are now the observer. You're just observing your body. Observing your emotions. Observing your thinking. And thanking everything as it comes. Everything can be your teacher if you allow it to be your teacher. Every pain we have, whether it's physical, every discomfort we have, just making up words, every discomfort we have, if it's emotional, the thoughts that we have, if we learn to watch our thoughts and not just react to our thoughts, we can learn so much about ourselves, so much about the nature of who we are and what life has molded us to be and who we want to be. And these practices give us the ability to make the gap a little bit narrow. None of us can be perfect, but sitting down to be the observer, not a player, not a participant, not in the middle of it, but watching it. So, let's take a moment, bring the palms back to the center, in front of the heart. Thank yourself for showing up. I thank you for showing up. I thank me for showing up. I thank Sarita for sending me that message, encouraging me to show up. Because essentially, we can't do this alone. We need each other. But at the same time, we need to learn how to navigate this when we are alone. Because sometimes that time is the time that matters most. With that, let's send out a prayer to everyone who needs that healing that we just created for ourselves. If you know a person who's suffering, visualize that person and send them this love, this compassion that we just shared with ourselves and with each other by showing up for ourselves to lessen our own suffering a little bit. Because when we learn to lessen our own suffering, when we learn to take care of our body and our mind, our thinking and our emotions, so that our spirit can be in the driver's seat, we impact the lives of others around us so much more than we could ever know. And eventually, as we learn to become the observer, we begin to see that impact, and we become more inspired to care for ourselves, so that the ones that we love can be more inspired to care for themselves. Wankanta, thank you. Wuiwina, thank you so much for everything that was, is, and will be. Thank you for all the connections we share. Whether we consider them good or bad, they all have their purpose. Thank you for the pain. Thank you for the heartache. For they all come to teach us something. Thank you for the joy and the blessings and the babies and the future generations and our elders and our cultures that are so rich. And for the ones that, fought so hard to keep our cultures alive, and I honor our relatives in the East that share this yoga with us and the martial arts. Both of those have saved my life over and over again. And I send gratitude out to all my teachers, the ones that are still here on this earth and the ones that have made their journeys. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with me, and thank you for finding me worthy of sharing these teachings so that I could share them with others. And thank you for all the food we have, the water, the earth. And thank you for all the good things that are to come and the prayers that are being answered. With that, I wish you all a really happy new year. I'm uploading all these videos to the Rematriation Station YouTube channel, so if you missed any of the videos, you can access any of the past videos on YouTube. We're going to be coming back this year strong with the Rematriation Station podcast. And we have a lot of other things that are in the works, and I just want to give a shout out to my Hunka mom, Martina Looking Horse, and all she's doing, and her Winuk Chala Wichokan offering to her community and her people. And yeah, I'm just so blessed and honored to get to be here in this time and all these things we're getting to do. And I want to thank you all for all the wonderful things you guys are doing out there. You guys are amazing. And even if it feels like on the hardest days we're not making a difference, we are. So keep doing what you guys are doing, and thank you for letting me be a small part of your lives. I love you guys. Good night.